All right, my awesome friend, tell me, what is it that had you create, launch Winning International, which is now doing so well? Like, guys, Ryan's built up Winning International to a 7-figure business, making tremendous change, in so many people's lives. What was it that compelled you, gave you the desire to do this?
Yeah, it's a great question, Gab, because most people in business struggle because their leverage is not greater or more powerful than the desire to stay in their comfort zone.
Yeah.
So usually there's no factors that are compelling them to do the things they need to do, like tackle their fears and take risks and work hard. Usually there's nothing that's more important to them than staying in their comfort zone. And that lack of what's important is the lack of the why or the purpose. And for me, starting out, the big switch for me was getting outside my comfort zone. And the only way I could do that was getting out of my head and into my heart. And the way that was really present for me starting Winning was digging deep by rescoping my entire life. And the way that I did that was by going to the end of my life, because I usually try to reverse engineer and go really macro when I'm problem solving and thinking, what's the point of what we're even doing here? And so for me, when I was trying to vet my own life, I went to the end of it and went, well, obviously that's when I die. So what can I do? And I came up with this idea to write out my own eulogy. And so I wrote it out and realized when I was trying to think about what I want people to think of me or remember me for when I passed, and it was all about touching their lives, impacting them. It wasn't about the success. Obviously that was going to be part of being a role model, but it wasn't what was important to me. So as soon as I did that, I realized I want to do something massive with my life so that, and for the selfish reasons of being remembered when I passed, for making a positive difference. And so I went, well, I got to impact the world as much as possible. And I think I can do that by helping other people who help more people, which for me was coaches. And I was already working with a lot of coaches through my digital agency at the time. But then I shut down and went straight into Winning International, and launched a business that helped coaches grow so they could help more people. And so it was really the spurring on of wanting to make a difference that helped me kickstart that business. That was my leverage. That for me at the time was more important than the pain, the temporary pain of tackling my fears associated with having to run seminars and put myself out there and say, this is my big business and I'm a coach and I'm going to be the coach's coach at a young age. That to me was less, all those fears were less important than the mission to change the world.
Love that.
So,
guys, watching, listening to this, do it for yourself. Take yourself to that end point and ask yourself what would have made this life count, and build it up so strongly that you will continue no matter what when it comes to growing a business. Because so often, if the person's desire is not big enough, it's true, they give up so quickly, but they didn't do the work on desire. So I love that. If you were there's probably many, right? But whatever comes to your mind right now, when you look at the growth you've undertaken, the different shifts in your thinking, that have shifted you into higher states of being, right? Because to me, every time we grow in business, we actually shift. We have a complete shift in the way we think, and that impacts what we do. What's one of the most fundamental shifts of thinking that you went through over the last few years?
Well, there are two main ones that I've had that have been real huge acceleration points for me. And one was right at the beginning. And I think as a lot of the guys listening to this interview will probably be towards the start of their journey. I'll focus on the initial shift that I had. And for me, it was really around how I perceived failure. Because the thing that stopped me from wanting to go out there and play at my highest potential, because I was still in business before and I was still doing okay. I was still doing well. I was still successful. But I just knew I wasn't playing anywhere near my maximum potential. And whenever I analyzed anyone else who was where I wanted to be, and I looked at what they did, they just took massive action. That was the difference. They weren't afraid to do things. And for me, I was. I was petrified of doing things, so I didn't do them because I was so scared. And what I figured out the gap was in the tweak of mindset was that I associated macro failure to micro failure, meaning that I thought that by getting rejected or failing on a micro scale, that meant that I wasn't cut out for business. So if I got rejected on a sales call, or I launched a marketing campaign, or I ran a seminar and I got rejected in any of these ways, or I put money down and I lost that money in any small capacity, or I hired someone and they weren't right, I associated that micro failure meant that, what if that symbolized I wasn't cut out for business? Which is ridiculous upon reflection. And it's most people look at that and go, that's ridiculous. But for me at that point, it was a real thing. And what I realized is that you can choose, you're going to fail regardless. You're either going to fail on a micro level or a macro scale. And for me, I was always failing on a macro scale, meaning that my whole business success wasn't getting to where I wanted it to be because I wasn't willing to fail on a micro scale. So you can either fail on a micro or a macro. You're going to make your choice. But as soon as I changed my goal from trying to perfectly execute on the micro aspects and instead set my intention to out-execute and out-action anyone on a micro scale, and just knowing that there's going to be lots of failures, but that's going to lead me to the greatest long-term macro success. As soon as I made that association and just didn't give a crap about micro failure, just completely detached, then it gave me permission to play full out and just launch marketing campaigns, sell on sales calls, present with seminars. And I wasn't afraid of failing because I know I'm going to win if I out action. And I know that micro failure is part of the process and it's going to bulletproof me from macro failure. Yeah. And since then I have been bulletproof because of that one shift. Yeah. So that was definitely the main shift. And anyone starting out in business, if you can learn to detach and instead of focusing on the results of all the micro activities, just see every action as progress, whether it's a win or a loss, is irrelevant. Just doing it is what's going to enable you to win. And that was a huge shift for me.
To me, though, there's levels of this in every stage of business because you've got, there's all these failures at level 1, for argument's sakes, where you're failing with your messaging, you're failing with marketing campaigns, you might be failing with the way you do a sales presentation or sell in general. You might be failing on delivering your service, or if you've got products, you might have a shit system around posting it or whatever, right? There's levels to it all, like hiring staff. When you look at each growth journey of business, if you're going somewhere new, like let's face it, if you've never been there before, it's highly likely you're not masterful at whatever you're about to do, and you're probably going to make some mistakes. And I think when we take emotion out of business growth and we're actually more calculated and we keep our head cool and we stay cool, we stay calm, we stay enjoying the journey. It shifts everything. Out of curiosity, this is a common one that comes up for people. Not sure if you've had the experience or what your thoughts are on it. A lot of people tend to care what people think, and so when they're growing their business, they're so consumed by what people think that they're not taking certain action because they're, like you said, the perfect. I'm going to perfectly execute this so I don't fail. There's also this, I'm going to perfectly execute this so people think I'm awesome. What's your take on that? Like, is there any insights around that you might want to share?
Yeah, definitely. Well, just that as a principle in life is the biggest blockage to success in the entire world is our desire to be liked. And the reason that we do is because it helps in our mind protect us from the biggest fears we have, which is that we're not enough. And if we're not enough, we won't be loved. They're the two primary fears that we hold as humans. And for that reason, everything that we do is motivated by those fears, to be liked. All we want to do is be liked. And everything, from when you get in the car and the way that you drive, I don't want to cut in front of anyone in case they toot me, to you're walking down the streets and I don't want to talk too loud in case someone overhears my conversation, to every single thing that we do, at the end of the day, can be brought back to the goal of being liked, whether it's a pursuit of a goal and when we achieve it, what's it going to give us? Someone's going to like us for that, whether it's our partner, whether it's our team, whether it's our fans. Everything that we do at the end of the day comes down to being liked. And the more that you can detach away from that, the more powerful you become because you're led by your own goals and not by the goals of others or the goals of what other people are going to think of you. So it's not just people in business, it's people in the world, and everyone thinks that way, not just people that are, if you're listening to this going, man, I thought it was just me. It's everyone. It's me just to this point as well. And so acceptance is the first key. But what I've found is the easiest way to get through it is there's two kind of ways. There's the reactive way and then there's the proactive way. The reactive way, which is how do you get through it when you're in a predicament, when you're afraid of doing something because of judgment, the instant switch you can make is get out of your head and into your heart. And so what usually happens is we find that the times we're most scared or fearful come from the times where we're most thinking about ourselves. And so if you're about to do a big keynote presentation or run a seminar, like really putting yourself out there publicly, and you're nervous, you're never nervous because you're focusing on helping other people or gratitude. You're always nervous because you're worrying about what everyone else is going to think. What if they reject me? What if they don't like me? And it's always about you. But if you switch away from you and you start to focus on impact and get into your heart, out of your head, then the sort of questions you're asking yourself are, holy crap, how lucky am I that I get to do this? If I go 5 years back and then come to this present moment, this would be a dream. I get to help these people. I don't have to do it. I get to do it. And so you're shifting your perspective from a head-placed, ego-based thought process to a heart-based thought process, which makes it very easy because now the focus has shifted from you to them.
Yeah.
And so in a way you could say that it's reactive because it's deflective. You're actually taking the focus away from you and you're putting it onto someone else. And that's what I needed to do starting out. When I was running these seminars, the only way that I could get myself to have the courage to do it was to make it not about me, because if it was about me, then it was too overwhelming to bear. And so as soon as I deflected it, reactively went, oh, it's actually, I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for the billion people whose lives I want to change. Then it made it easier for me to comprehend. And that's reactive. The proactive way to deal with it is by expanding your comfort zone to your core, so that who you are and the activities that you used to doing get bigger and bigger and bigger, so that the same tasks that used to scare you no longer scare you because they're within your comfort zone. And I like to think of it as being a big circle, and you're in the middle of the circle, and there's all these little dots in the circle that symbolize activities that you are comfortable doing, which could be as simple as talking with a friend, walking down the street in public, to some people might have sales in their comfort zone. Someone else might have sales outside their comfort zone. Someone might have cold calling outside their comfort zone, but warm calling and warm sales inside their comfort zone. And so every time you can venture out of your circle and you can tackle a dot or an activity that's in your fear zone or outside your comfort zone, you can imagine that the circle that was your comfort zone expands to engulf that activity, and your comfort zone gets bigger. So what used to scare you doesn't scare you anymore. And I kind of see it like a rubber band. So if you can get in the habit of tackling fears, it always expands, and then the rubber over time solidifies and gets used to being at that level. But if you tackle your fear once and it expands temporarily and you don't continue to expand it, then it's like a rubber band and it'll snap back. And most people get the courage or the willpower to go, boom, I'm going to tackle a fear, but they're not in a habit of tackling fears. So after a couple of weeks, it just snaps straight back, and they never really become someone that is bigger. And that whole phrase gets thrown around all the time, fake it till you make it. And when you're doing a fear challenge, that's not you comfortably doing something that's inside your comfort zone. It's faking it, really, because you're throwing yourself into the unknown. And so for me, doing activities like singing on a tram, I didn't feel comfortable doing that by any stretch. But when I followed it up 2 weeks later by doing a motivational rant on the tram, I started to become more grounded in that activity because I built a habit of doing things outside my comfort zone.
Yeah,
so instead of it being
Ryan went on this rampage, just to fill the people in case they haven't, and they should.
Yeah.
If you're not following Ryan, please do so. To fill you in, though, Ryan literally went on this rampage of fear challenges to stretch himself so he could make a bigger impact, right? But let's face it, the reason why he took the fear challenges on was because his desire for impact was huge, and his drive to execute his business vision was a 10 out of 10, right? So what he did is he literally did crazy shit, like get on a tram and, motivationally speak to everybody. And some people thought he was great and some people, didn't. And he did a whole bunch of crazy shit.
One lady that was so disempowered when I was doing a motivational rant, because the topic was at peak hour at 8 a.m. in the morning, talking to people who were heading to a job they hated, for most of them on there, and they were all looked so miserable when I got on the tram. I was calling them all out. So there was one lady on that tram that didn't want to be called out, and she literally, probably 3.5 minutes in or 4 minutes in, was like, shut the fuck up, because she was so, feeling so disappointed and angry and frustrated by the message that she lashed out. And there were other people that were, so engaged, going, holy crap, this is something I've never seen before, and this is a message that has never really been given to me, and they were taking positivity from it. But I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for me. Yeah. I was doing it because I wanted to grow, and that would just happen to be an extra positive part of it, that other people were getting impacted. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I was doing it for me.
And it's such a phenomenal example. I know for myself, like I purposefully, and I still do to this day, I purposefully, consciously did shit that made me feel uncomfortable as often as possible in growing my business, because I knew the more I stepped outside my comfort zone in every area, in hiring staff, in everything you can think of, in increasing prices, in hiring staff, in launching certain, like running certain events, having a certain message, having a certain message that feels a bit uncomfortable to share because you're going out saying something most other people aren't. And I still remember that there was decisions I made, and I don't know if you have this or if you're listening, this is just an indication, there'd be big decisions I made in business that no shit, upon making the decision, like I kind of like the world shifted, like I couldn't even hear people, like everyone was like, the people talking to me in that moment, Ryan, sounded like this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all I could hear is my heartbeat, and like everything's fuzzy, it's so outside my comfort zone. But the benefit to that is when you stretch past that and you realize you're safe, you realize you didn't lose a leg, you didn't lose an arm, no one died, you're safe. You'll change forever. You'll never be that person again because hey, I can handle this. And
unless you don't do anything more, because then you will snap back. And I've had experiences of that. If I was to go, you say, get on a tram right now, I'd probably do it, but I'd be shit scared. I'm not accustomed to it because I haven't been doing challenges like that recently. And so my rubber band snapped back a little bit to exclude some of the activities that I did get used to before, because I've shifted my focus from doing lots of public stuff to doing more back-end stuff in the business. Yeah. So,
Specific to that, though, but I think, yes, I agree with you. Like, you didn't master the art of train speaking. Yet at the same time, to me, everything we do in any area of life, and as long as we continue to stretch our comfort zone, as long as we continue getting that, it's it's
a continuation.
Yeah, it's just making sure you're always stretching yourself somewhat. I'm sure you can relate to this. I've got clients who, to work with me is such a huge comfort zone stretch for them. Sometimes financially, sometimes time-wise, sometimes because, shit, this is real. Like, to take on Gaby as a coach or Ryan as a coach, that means I'm backing my dream now. Like, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And it's super uncomfortable for them. And yet, usually I've found the ones, and this isn't like a general rule, what's your take? I found the ones that find it most uncomfortable and step through that uncomfort zone are actually the ones that get such phenomenal growth instantly. Like, just a decision to enter a program actually creates the shift. And the content and the stuff they learn is super important, but the identity, the who they become in that moment is more important than the actual content curriculum. What's your take on that?
Yeah, because I think it's their perception of it. Yeah. Some people will make a big decision and then they'll be like, oh, I'm fucked. And other people make a massive decision to join the program and then they go, holy crap, I'm such a boss. Like, I've literally just put, for us, it's our program 16K plus GST. So they're like, holy shit, I've just put 16K down to do this process. Who does that? And they might be thinking, I don't know any of my friends that put that amount down. And that's how I felt when I invested in a 50K program when I started, because when I was talking about the eulogy earlier, and I went, well, I'm starting winning now. And the thing that I did to create an away from motivation for myself to really create urgency to make the business work quicker was I invested in a $50,000 program. And for me, I was thinking, who the hell does that? I wasn't ready for it, that's for sure. I wasn't financially in the position to do it, but I took a lot of pride in that. And so because I've decided to look at that decision from a certain lens and make it as a positive, then I took a lot of positivity from it. Whereas someone else, and because I see with people that go into our program, some people they're just looking for any way for it to be a negative. So they've jumped in, they were kind of wooed into a way and they were pumped temporarily, and then the people in their environment are like, what have you done? And they're like, oh, I know, I don't know, let's see if it works. Let's see if it works. Not, this is it for me. I've just made the decision and I'm never going back. Some people take that perspective on. Some people are like, oh, I'm in, but oh, is this going to be the thing that stuffs me up, or is it the right decision? For me, whenever I've jumped into something, I've jumped into it with so much certainty, and I've gone, this is the big next step for me. Like heading into our new office, like we've just, as you asked me before we got on this call, 100-person office that can fit 100 team members. Yep. For me, I'm like, that has now secured us 100 team members. I know that we'll get to 100 team members. I actually know it in my DNA that we will get there at a cellular level. I've got that much certainty. Whereas someone else might do that and go, oh, crap, I'm just going to get a contingency plan to make sure we can get some sub-leasees ready just in case we're not making enough money. And for them, it's a massive risk. For me, it's not. I take massive pride in it. Or you'll see it through social media where I'll be like, this is our office and look at what we're doing. And I'm seeing it as the best thing ever. But other people might look at it through a negative lens.
Mind you, what you're talking about to me is this, because, to me there's a comfort zone, there's outside your comfort zone, but then there's the panic zone, so to me around business, and this can actually be misheard. So it's actually perfect that you said it, because I don't want the people watching this or listening to this to live in their friggin' panic zone. That's the worst thing you can do. You go, okay, does this stretch me? Is this action going to take me closer to my result? And, how does it feel? Is it giving me a tight butt experience? I'm a bit tight butt. I'm a bit excited, but also nervous, dance between those two, or am I petrified? Because petrified is probably a bit too far outside your comfort zone. And I've also seen, especially overachievers, people that are pre-wired to actually take big action, they hear this message and they're already stepping outside their comfort zone, right? And they can often hear a message like this and go, oh, that means I've got to do this uber big thing. And what they don't get is, no, you don't. It's just keep stretching yourself, If you keep stretching yourself with your actions to be in alignment with your vision. If your vision is 10 staff and you've got no staff, well, guess what? Get one. And for some people, it's not get 3 staff at one time. It's get 1. Is it uncomfortable? Do it. Now, maybe next time, it's hiring 2 people. It's that calibration. And to me, it's that, because if someone goes into a panic zone, then they don't take the resourceful learnings, because their whole body is producing cortisol and so it's so personal. For you, doing what you've done is stretching your comfort zone and calibrating quite quickly. For somebody else, what you've just done, Ryan, they'd be sleepless nights. They'd freak right the crap out, and that's the reality. So it's really like tuning in.
Yeah, I think there's 2 main things. The first one is that and this is just a rule of thumb, that if you choose to take it on board, you'll make other people's lives better and your life will be less stressful as well, is that you should never be contrasting yourself to anybody else. No. There's nothing that, for me, frustrates me more than when people are directly contrasting themselves with me. Because if you're listening to this going, well, Ryan did that fear challenge, I'm going to do it. For me, that was scary. For other people, it might not be. For me, walking down the street could be comfortable, and for someone else, it could be simple. For me, I've got a massive fear of heights around buildings. So if I'm on a really high building, that scares me. Jumping out of a plane, less so. Something about the building. And so if we were just trying to contrast versus each other, you might be like, well, that's easy for me. But Ryan found it hard. Contrast it versus yourself. Yeah. And the second thing is, the size of, I think what you said then was so on point. The size of your goal determines whether you need to have the risk tolerance to be able to take big leaps of faith. Because for me, if someone's got a goal of 10 staff, you're right, taking 1 staff on would be great. But I think the size of your goal needs to determine what you have to stretch your risk tolerance to. And I think risk tolerance comes down to attitude still. I think it's still, at the end of the day, comes down to attitude, because there could be someone who is in the exact same financial position that I'm in right now, with the exact same team size, who wants to gradually, year by year, add a few extra staff, and then maybe in 10 years' time have 100 people in their business, or maybe in 20 years' time have 100 people in their business. And so because their goals are less, they can take longer to get there, and therefore, even though they're at the same point that I'm at, they're making different decisions, and they're choosing lower risk tolerance to be able to do it. Whereas for me, it's to have a $300 million business in the next 5 years. Yeah. So if I couldn't get an office, that has 100 team members and build it to that point in the next 12 months, I'm just not going to get to my goal. And so I have to have higher risk tolerance or else it wouldn't be possible. So the bigger your goals, the more you need to have that risk tolerance, and the smaller your goals, the less risky you need to be.
And mind you, though, like, it's so personal. You nailed it when you said you don't like it when people compare themselves to you. You know, so often we do this. We look at someone and we go, oh, they've got all this. We should all over ourselves sometimes, you know. I should be here by now. Well, hold on. Is that your truth? You know, if it was your truth, you probably would be. You know, like, tune in, and what is your truth? What does success really look like to you? What's your dream? Like, do the actual work. I love what you shared so far around, first, you got very clear on what you wanted and why you wanted it, and absolutely unwavering, like 100% desire. Then, you know, you constantly do this. You constantly tune in to the next vision. I've seen your vision expand and expand and expand and expand, you know, every time we catch up. And to me, that is such a key thing. If you don't know where you're going and why you're going there, well, why would you step outside your comfort zone? You just friggin' wouldn't. Two, one thing I love about you is that you take full responsibility. You know, you actually, like, no matter what's going on, no matter what decision you make, even if you were to make a decision in your panic zone, which, by the way, we all do at times, you don't point the finger, you don't listen to other people, you don't find yourself in what you were saying before. Some business owners, you know, you've got this vision, you've taken action, and you're letting your environment tell you to not do it. You're buying into scarcity. You're buying into fear. I've never seen you do that. What's your process and thinking? What do you believe to be true that has you never point the finger else outside of yourself and always go inwards and take full responsibility for your decisions?
Yeah, it's a real simple one for me, Gab, and thank you for the beautiful compliment as well. It's very simple for me, though, and that is that the moment that you blame somebody else, or you say that anything, positive or negative, any results you produce have come down to an external factor, even if it's true, you lose the ability to control the outcomes moving forward. So if I always throw out a controversial one with this and say that if I was to get cancer, I would put it on me. That'd be my fault. And I did this angry rant about coming from cause or taking responsibility as a Facebook Live. And I said that, and I said, you know, even if I was to get cancer, it'd be my fault. And if you've got cancer, it's your fault. And I had my grandma comment below saying, how dare you say that? Because my grandpa's got cancer. And how dare you say that? And it's like, at the end of the day, my view around taking responsibility, I don't give a flying fuck if you take responsibility. The reason that I choose to is so I can control my outcome. So if my grandpa's got cancer and he chooses to not take responsibility, he can't fix it. Because in the same vein that it was down to some external factor or poor him, then it wasn't his fault. He had no control over getting it, and therefore he has no control over fixing it. Whereas for me, if I got cancer, I go, what have I done? So if I can find out what I've done, then I can find out how to fix it. And the same thing with everything. If my relationship's deteriorating and it's her fault, then it's only her that can fix it. If it's my fault, then I can fix it, because in the same vein that I fucked it up, I can fix it and I can take control and responsibility. So I love coming from cause, as it's sometimes referred to in the personal development space, or I love taking responsibility because it's the only way I can maintain full control. And it's just an attitude. And sometimes I think that taking responsibility, it's only designed to serve you, and or to help you as opposed to hinder you. And if taking responsibility hinders you in a sense that you're so insecure that you putting all that blame on yourself in a moment was going to be a hindrance, because it's going to make you feel even more guilty and even more terrible about yourself. You're in deep depression and suicidal, and someone's like, take responsibility. That might not help them. So taking responsibility in that moment may be a hindrance. So it's down to you to choose whether you want to take responsibility or not. But for anyone that's heavily success-driven, taking responsibility is integral to getting to where you want to go. If your goal is to feel good, then most of the time, you really should consider not taking responsibility. If you're in a bad place and you don't have many habits that serve you in your life, because taking responsibility is going to be detrimental to the way you feel, because it's going to make you feel more guilty. So it's all around what you choose, and if you want to take the principle on board, do it. If you don't, it's just going to be a hindrance to you in your success.
Yet at the same time, to me, taking responsibility comes from a logical standpoint, not from an emotional standpoint. So
Yeah, totally.
to me, it's always like, no matter what I do in business and in life, if something F's up, I'm not going to, I know that you call it control, I call it power. Same thing though. To me, my association is every time I take responsibility, I've got the power to do something about this. Same thing though. And yet at the same time, over the years for me, like at the beginning, I still remember this, like this was, 15 years ago when I first learned that we create our own world. Getting deep into personal development, doing all these courses. And at first, I thought, awesome, I create my own world. I'm responsible for my own success, my own happiness. It was so liberating at first. Like, I felt free. I felt like I could do anything until some shit went wrong. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I created that. And I still remember having this moment where I was like, oh, it was like, I wish I was ignorant again. There was this moment of, I wish I didn't know that I'm responsible. I wish I didn't know that I create this, because right now it'd be so nice to blame this on somebody else. And then there was this shift again into, well, no, hold on. Because once I took responsibility and shifted, there was such an elevation in my life that I was convinced that no matter what happens, and may it be in relationship, may it be in business, may it be in my health, may it be in any area of life, if I don't point my finger and if I don't ask questions, if I don't ask, what can I learn from this? How can I improve? How could I do it better? What else do I need to learn? What am I missing here, that had this occur? If I don't do that work, I don't grow, and nor do you. So I love, that, but also giving it to the people of, guys, it's not about blaming yourself. It's not about taking responsibility from it. Oh, I'm a bad person. I need to beat myself up. It's an empowering thing. I've got the control and the power. So I love that. And to me, it's a key principle. Like, you've given heaps of gold already. Guys, stepping outside your comfort zone in business to grow towards your vision, super important. Make sure it's in alignment with your vision. So many people out there, you step outside your comfort zone, but they don't have a clear vision, and they're taking action that's stupid. It's like, well, make sure that the outside your comfort zone action is in alignment with your goal. And make sure that every time you do something, and it doesn't work out, just go in and go, okay, what can I learn? How can I take full responsibility for this? As opposed to blaming your clients or blaming your staff or blaming the industry or the time of month, or, which so often people do. Or it's never been...
I always blame time of month.
What was that?
I always blame the time of the month.
You do? How? What do you mean? How do you blame the time of the month?
When my eggs come out at the end of the month, it's always that for me. When I get my period and I get that pain in my belly, get so cranky at my partner. There's two things that I think are really important to bring on board with this taking responsibility, and you touched on one of them there, which was no dwelling on you. Yeah, no dwelling at all. And for me, like, there's areas of my life that I choose not to focus on, but I still take responsibility for the fact that I'm not where I want to be there. Yeah. So, like, finances I put to the side for ages, and therefore my investments were always put to the side. Yeah. So I wasn't financially at the level that I wanted to be, but I knew it was still in my hands. And I would never say, well, that was because of this and this. It's like, no, it's still on me. I've just chosen to do it. I'm not going to beat myself up. It's just a choice I've made. And so I never dwell. And the second one is making sure that you keep firm boundaries still. So that's usually around other people. And in my past relationship, I took so much responsibility for where I was in the relationship that so much so, and I did it at the jeopardy of my boundaries. Yeah. So I didn't have boundaries. It was just everything was my fault, every single thing. And so I wouldn't enforce boundaries. So let's say, for example, in business, if the business isn't going your way and you're in a business partnership, then you need to make sure, or let's say with your clients, actually, to be a better example, if you're like, well, it's my fault, and it's like the clients aren't getting results, you've still got to say there's a boundary where your clients have to do a certain amount of work themselves. If you're always taking responsibility, you're going to refund everybody because everything's on you, which is not the case. You need to have firm boundaries. If someone doesn't do the work, and then they ask for a refund, it's like, hang on a second. You could come from course so much you're like, yeah, this is my fault 100%. Well, it's not actually. You got to also have firm boundaries for what you expect from other people. And I've got such firm boundaries in my current romantic relationship versus my previous one. Whereas if people aren't treating me the way I want to be treated, I'm just like, cool, look, I know that our happiness is down to me in a big extent, but if what you're doing right now, that ain't fucking cool with me. There's a firm boundary I have in place, and that needs to be met for you to fully respect me in the relationship. And it's something that I'm not willing to budge on. Yeah. And I didn't have that in my last relationship. And as a result, I was always choosing to be taken advantage of. Pretty much. I was still, see, even now in this conversation, I'm still coming from a cause. It was still my fault, but I didn't set firm boundaries in place. Yeah. And as a result, I stayed in a relationship for way too long.
Yep. And that's all a learning journey too. Like, you know, at the end of the day, because of that, you now know the importance of boundaries and standards and actually...
Don't you worry, girl, I ain't dwelling. Rule number 1 still applies.
But it's true. Like, when I look at all the growth I've ever undertaken in my life, some of my biggest lessons have come from my biggest screw-ups, you know, where I wasn't, you know, I didn't have enough clarity, I didn't have my boundaries, I didn't have standards, whatever it might be. To me, it's that, and I take responsibility, and it's not about you being a martyr. So I love that, because someone could take this on and just become a martyr, you know.
Love that, martyr. It's a funny sounding word, martyr.
Say it 3 times, or a martyr, anyway.
Martyr. With every breakdown comes a breakthrough. I love that, and I've heard it so many times. It's just, and you and I are programmed now to look for the gold in any miserable or painful situation, whereas the average person looks at any excuse to feel negative or to blame themselves. Like, even if I fuck something up massively or I wake up feeling shit, I'm just always looking for the positive, and I'm okay with everything. And the further on you go, the more you accept everything that happens, and not only accept, elevate to a place of appreciation for it. And when you can get to that stage, life's a whole lot more positive due to the way you choose to view it.
Yeah. Hey, here's a question. If you could go back in time, and and this is not to say, just to pre-frame this is not to say there's any regrets. This is not to say that...
Don't worry. I ask this question a lot when I've interviewed, and people are like, well, I wouldn't change a thing because everything had its purpose. It's like, but if we put that to the side and you wanted to change something, what would you change?
Yeah, so, you know, if you could go back in time and you could give younger version you know, one piece of information, knowledge, wisdom, you know, that if he had it back then, could have actually had him, you know, just flow through life. Like, what do you think you know now that you definitely didn't know then, and that you would love to gift the younger version of yourself?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to pinpoint it into one, but upon reflection, in 3 seconds, I would say that it would be a deep-seated understanding. Like, if I could give myself anything, it'd be a deep-seated understanding that every single person in the world has the exact same potential. Because for so long, I just thought that I wasn't anywhere near as good as anybody else, and therefore, based on who I am, I can only achieve this. But today, I just feel like I'm playing the game. Like, now I get it. But now I get it at the age of 25. I wish I understood that from a young child, so that I could choose to make bigger decisions from when I was younger, because I knew that I was the same as everyone else, or in an amazing way, like I've got the same potential as everyone else, so I can do whatever I want. Then I would do more from a younger age. I'd be more of who I really wanted to be. And now I live that way. Like, my goals are monstrous now compared to where they used to be, based off the fact that now I know that. Now I know I can do whatever I want. And I feel like even queuing onto that a couple of years ago, because I probably really started to understand that 2, maybe 3 years ago, probably 2 years ago. And even in that short amount of time of understanding that, I've been able to create my dream lifestyle. Everything that I wanted to have 2 years ago, I've got now. Like, I blew my mind the other day because, and I know it's a materialistic thing, but I really don't care. But I went and test drove a Lamborghini. And
what color?
Yeah, and for me, because I don't care about watches. I don't care about lots of materialistic things, but cars, I fucking love cars. I've got a deep appreciation for them. So I test drove a Lamborghini, and it was sick, by the way. It was awesome. I've raced them in the US before, because you pay like $500 US, and you can race it around the track, and that's epic. But I just wanted to test drive one. Wasn't planning on buying one. Wasn't. And now. But then I found out how much it is to get a Lambo, and it's like $1,500 a week. So, I mean, it's like, are you kidding me? Like a brand new Lamborghini? Because when I was young, I just didn't think that was possible. That to me was way past who I thought I was good enough to be. to have something like that. And it's just a piece of metal. I mean, I probably wouldn't even drive it that much and just sit in the garage, but it's symbolic of what's possible. I didn't know that I was good enough to have something like that.
Will you let
and
me
now at
drive
24,
it? Can I drive it just once?
yeah, of course.
And
then just once, whatever you ask for, you get. Like Tony Robbins with a homeless person in the street. Can I have some money, sir? Can I have $1? He's like, you just want $1 here, and he's flicking past $100 notes.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
So for me, just realizing that was massive. It's like I can have everything I want now, and let alone what's possible in the future. But I don't feel like people understand, because now people will be listening to this right now and putting us on a pedestal like we're different. Because Ryan's got all this good knowledge and Gabby's running this podcast. I'm different. You're different. We're not. We're the same fucking person. Just everyone is. And so everyone that's listening, don't put us on a pedestal. Realize there's no difference. Because I was in your shoes a few years ago thinking that me and Gabby, the equivalents, were way better than I was, which is a lie. And if I'd known that from the start, I would have had a very different path and growth trajectory. That's for sure.
It's beautiful. It's funny, like you just... there's certain things, and I get you and I have a slightly different history, but my parents gave me so many beautiful gifts. Like, I came to this country as an immigrant. We literally lived in a refugee camp for a year. We came here with nothing. 2 suitcases. I think Mum and Dad had like $100 and no one, and no English skills and all of that kind of stuff. And, we were poor. And, but there was something really cool my parents always did. And my dad would literally, still remember this moment. I'm a kid, and we're sitting outside, I think we're camping, and we're just philosophizing and stuff. I was probably, 8 or 9. And,
that's pretty cool in itself. Philosophizing at 9.
yeah. And what was cool though was I was telling Dad about something. I would have been sharing a dream I had with him. I don't even know what it was at this point. And I'm like, do you think I could do that, Dad? And Dad says to me, Gabby, look around the world you live in. Everything you see, every car, every building, every piece of technology was built by a human being. You're a human being. You can do anything, baby. And I still remember it to this day because I was like, I can do anything, And I did. I did all sorts of, I had a theatre company. It was the beautifulest gift he could have given me, And as you shared that story, amazing. And I know you'll do that with your kids. You will do that with your kids because... it's the greatest gift you can give a child, to believe. There was never any idea I came up with to my parents that they ever said, no matter what I came up with, they were like, yep, you can do that. We believe in you. And it's such a powerful thing. Give that gift to yourself, guys. Get it. Look around the world. Don't ever put anyone on a pedestal. Everything out there, everything was made by a human being. It was first a thought, and you're a human being. And... you can do anything.
And I feel like the reason I said a deep-seated understanding that everyone has the same potential is because I got told it a million times. I think I've legitimately heard that at least 1,000 times. You can do anything. You are the same as everybody. Everyone has the same potential. I've heard that, but it didn't register on a deep level. And so those guys that are listening, don't just be like, yeah, we've all got the same potential, blah, 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 surface level understanding. So allow it to soak deeply into you. Actually get it. You can fucking do anything on the same, whatever level you want to be on. And the only difference is the difference in the decisions you make, and they come from your goals as well. Your goals are like a filter. It's like a filter in front of your brain. But imagine every decision has to go through this filter. Every action that you take comes through this filter, and it's purely based on your goals. So every time I go to do something, I filter it based on, is this going to help my goals? And then there's a couple of other layers of filters, which are the way that I view myself, my identity, and my belief systems, and everything. So if I think money's hard to get, I go my goals, and I go, okay, cool. So I got to do a video. Awesome. And then it goes through filter number 1. You got to do the video, and then it goes, am I somebody that does videos? And then my identity might be, I am someone that does video. So cool, sweet, through that filter. And then it goes, but my belief systems. Do I believe that I'm good in front of camera? Oh, no. Boom, fail, don't get to the end. So then I don't do the activity. So every decision and action that you take is based off your goals, your identities, and your belief systems. And so if you understand that you can do anything, then all that, the goals you can still control, but you just throw the filters in the bin. See ya. No longer there. You're just acting out of your best self and your unlimited, infinite self. And that is a gift.
Massive. And I really do believe, it comes from being true to what's actually your desire. Not going after somebody else's dream. Look at what Ryan did. He did the work on actually tuning in. When I'm dying, when I'm dead, what would have made this life friggin' so worth it? That every cell in my body is thriving up there wherever I am. Gosh knows what happens to us, right? He tuned in. He actually got clear. He wasn't chasing somebody else's dream. Like he said it to you, he went to test drive a Lamborghini. Why? Because he actually likes it, not because it's cool to have one. He doesn't like watches, so he's not going to go out.
Kind of because it's cool to have one.
Yeah, well, yeah, but ultimately it's the truth.
I'm staring it.
But it's true. Like, so often people don't get this. You can have anything, right? Anything is possible, but please get that. I believe anyway. Tell me what your thoughts are. When it's my truth, when it's my absolute 100% desire, there's nothing that stops me achieving my desires. Nothing. And that's it. That's the difference. It's, spend the time to actually work out who you are, what you value, what you desire, what your truth is, and then go after it with everything. And it's that simple.
Yeah. I think the further along that I go on my journey, the less I care about what other people think, and that opens up the possibility for more authenticity. Now, authenticity is misconstrued, especially in the personal development space, because people think authenticity means just doing everything for everyone else. That's what the personal development space thinks of. Is that an authentic person? Well, he swore on a webinar, and that's not very nice, so he's not an authentic person. Whereas authenticity is trueness to oneself. And so... And the reason that we look up to certain people in the world a lot more, and we don't know why. The reason that people look up to Donald Trump so much, and people in the personal development space hate him so much, people look up to him because at the end of the day, he says whatever the fuck he wants, and that, in my opinion, is true authenticity because he's living his fucking truth, and because he's living his truth, everyone admires that. They don't know why they like him; they just like him. Why does he have so many followers? He just has a hell of a lot of followers. Why does everybody like Conor McGregor when he's arrogant and when he's someone that just doesn't give a shit? Because he doesn't give a shit. He does what he wants to do. Yep. If that means smoking a cigar, walking around with his shirt off, and just buying like expensive shit, that's what he wants to do, and he's doing it. And people want to be like him. Why? Because he's living authentically. Yeah. And there's so many people in the personal development, and that doesn't mean that I say that's what I want to do. Because I don't want to go smoking a cigar. I think that's disgusting personally. But I admire the fact that he lives authentic to himself. On the same token, some people want to go out there and become a woman when they're a man. And then to them, that's them living their truth. So fight. And people are fascinated by that. And they look up to that. Because at the end of the day, they can see that person's being authentic to themselves. So we're magnetized to authenticity. But authenticity is misconstrued in the personal development space to mean you're positive all the time, and it's something that doesn't affect anyone negatively. It's just, that person's not authentic because, they don't want to have one relationship. I want to have one relationship, but if someone else, another guy out there wants to have 3 partners and the 3 partners want to be with him, and people might be like, that person's inauthentic. Well, maybe they're actually being authentic to themselves. Don't diss it because they're different or they're not doing what your map of reality constitutes to be the best. Yeah. They're doing what they want to do. I don't want to do that. I don't want to smoke. But if someone's out there smoking and drinking and that's what they want to do, I mean, that's them being authentic to themselves. Good on them.
And isn't that funny? But, I really don't give a crap what people do either. I don't sit there. I don't know. I've got better shit to do than to sit there judging people, right? There's so many better uses of my mind.
That's rare. That's rare.
The truth of the matter is, though, there is so many different variety. Everyone's unique. At the end of the day, there's not one single person, I don't believe, on this planet that's identical to, my best friend is so similar to me, but there's so many differences,
What about us? We're the same.
Huh? What was that?
What about you and me? We're the same.
Oh, yes, but, I got boobs and you don't.
Except for us, of course.
To me, we've all got our own individual thumbprint, and we should live that way. That's right, baby. It's
thumbs
true.
Up, girl.
And who to me, it's yes, there's a lot of variety out there in humans, and there's room for everybody. to me, it's not about judging other people. Let them be themselves. I may not want to hang out with you because your authenticity doesn't really mesh with mine and vibe with my authenticity.
Different values, different belief systems.
But gosh, there's plenty of room on this planet. I'm happy for you to be there somewhere. Like, I'm not going to, judge you upon it. But I also feel that because I don't judge others, it has me step into be more true to myself. Because I'm not projecting. Does that make sense? So why shouldn't I say what I think and how I feel and just be myself when I give the same gift to other people? If I'm going to gift you freedom, then I'm going to expect it back off you, and that's all there is to it. Like, does that make sense? So to me, you do the same thing, though. I don't see you. I haven't seen you judge people. Whenever I've caught up with you, not once.
Definitely judge people, but whenever I judge people all the time, but it's not my best self. I'm not in a state of grace when I'm doing it.
Gotcha.
It's like, I'm not judging you. I just want you to live over there outside my map of reality. I do, but that's not the best version of me. But I don't do it as much as the average person would.
Yeah.
But I definitely do it. I might find myself going, ugh, dirty. Like, that person's overweight, and what's wrong? Like, get your health together.
Gotcha.
But then I'm like, hang on, that's not the best version of me. That's them. They've got their own life. And so I do it all the time, and I'm just honest about that. But it's not the best for me, and I definitely do it less and less as time goes on.
No, you got a good point. At the end of the day, I'm sure that there's moments where I'm not in my best version of myself that I can get judgy. For the most part, though, my actual truth. So I'm sure I do. I just can't think of a moment right now. In saying that, though, but I think it's environmental too. Like, I'm not hanging out in environments. So I suppose really.
You spend more time down in Frangabanger. Walk the streets at night.
Well, I wouldn't, right? So I think that's relative too, because if I was to put into an environment where there was a lot of polar opposites to me, I probably would get triggered too. Ultimately, though, the biggest thing to get is let's all just give other people freedom. Let's all give people freedom to be who they want. And if you don't like what you see, don't look.
Someone's like lighting up a bong on the tram. And just closing and blocking your eyes with your hand.
Ignorance is bliss, right?
I've got no problem with it. Just let me close my eyes. It's funny, though, because this is an interesting concept, because sometimes I want to just let people be themselves, and sometimes I'll stop someone in the street who's smoking, and I'll be like, yuck. And I'll literally go up to them. I'll be like, hey, you look like a really cool guy. And I'll be really nice. And I'll be like, but that's killing you. It's like, you're so much better than that. You deserve, you look like a pretty successful dude. You're better than that. Come on, man. You got this. Or there'll be a chick that's smoking. I'm like, you're a good-looking girl. Why are you smoking? Get that shit out of here. And so I'm projecting my values and I'm judging them, but I'm also trying to influence their behavior. So there's certain times when you can judge and try to change that behavior.
Yeah, that's different, though, to me. To me, that's not so much judgment, because even the way you express it, it's more like you're seeing the light inside of them. You're calling to the greater version of them.
Can see the light inside.
And you're doing it with comedy. It's not like you're going up to them going, it's not like you snatch the cigarette, butt it out, and slap them on the face,
Sometimes I feel like doing it, though.
But you haven't yet, right?
Someone's got a ciggy in there and they're just puffing on us, feel like open palm and slapping them in the face.
I don't know. For me personally, I feel happier, as a person who doesn't. I feel happier to just let people be. But that's because years ago, my own journey had me learn to not help people that aren't asking for help. My journey, though, everyone's journey is different. So my journey, what I needed to learn, because I used to try and help everybody without being asked and then get upset because they didn't take action, right?
Yeah, I think that's the key part, though, because I think because the decision that I've come to recently is that I got to that point where I said, well, I'm not going to help him with it. I went to a point where I was like doing what you said then. I'm going to help you, especially with family members and their journeys. I'm projecting my values. Why aren't you chasing your dreams? And I get all worked up. And if they didn't want to change, all this emotion. And then I got to a point where it's like, no, it's your life. You do what you want. And now I'm at a point where I'm like, well, I'm going to mention it. I'm just not going to be attached to whether they choose to do something with it. Yeah. And I think that's I'm still not. And it's actually interesting because have you read The Way of the Superior Man, David Dieter?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's a really cool book. It's a very spiritual book on relationships and understanding masculine and feminine energy, which I know you're well aware of and you would have read through other books. But he talks about there's 3 stages of embracing your masculine and feminine energy. I think metaphorically it's relevant. It's like stage 1 is, and this is talking in the context of masculine energy and feminine energy, how to do it to the best of your ability. And he talks about masculine energy seeking freedom. And so on a level 1 person seeking freedom will be gorging. So be going there and want to fuck a bunch of chicks, destroy a bunch of shit. And it's like they're using their masculine energy, but it's level 1. It's erratic. It's not coming from a place of giving it all. It's very ego-based. Then there's level 2 where it's like, no, now I'm a mature man and I'm going to refrain from that version of me. And it becomes very neutral. And then there's a level 3 man that embraces his masculinity at the highest level. The only difference is he goes to give freedom from a place of love, not get freedom. And so it's almost like there's 3 levels. There's a place where you're doing it in a very immature level. There's a place where you're restricting it. And then there's a place where you're doing it from a place of love. And that's almost like my journey when it comes to giving advice to people. It's like giving because I need you to do it the way I want. And then there's, well, I'm not going to give, and it's restricted. And then there's the kind of like highest level where it's like, I'll still give. I'll still embrace that part of me. I'll say what I feel. I'm just not going to be hardcore attached to it. I'm going to do it from a place of love. And then I'm also going to be unattached to a certain degree because I'm not going to allow my happiness to be based on your reaction. I'm cool. Yeah. It's kind of like a sense of deep love where other people's actions don't influence your own self-worth.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like it. I know for myself, I like that. For myself, and it's, whatever works for you, right? Because for me, I tend to now ask people, would you like some advice? Would you? Yes.
Yeah, that's cool as well.
But obviously it depends, because I'm not going to walk up to a stranger in the street who's smoking and go, excuse me, would you like some advice around your cigarette smoking? So it's, it wouldn't work in that scenario. Yet at the same time, I don't tend to walk around streets like you seem to be doing a lot. Like, what's going on with you?
That was actually next door to this office the other day. There was an overweight man who looked very unhealthy, that looked like a driven business guy. And I walked up to him and I was like, hey man, pretty random. Quick question though, you look like a really driven guy. You like full into business, and would you say you're quite successful in business? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you've got a tie on, you look like really driven. Are you like a kick-ass business guy? And he's like, yeah, I am. He started to get a bit perked up. And this is in my back of my head. I'm planning on slamming him around his cigarettes. He was smoking. And then he's like, yeah, I am. And I was like, cool, man. Well, I'll tell you a little bit of a story. Like, I'm into business as well. I own one of the offices next door to this building, and I'm super into business. And, I would say I'm a little bit too successful now, but I used to neglect my health massively. I used to have missed breakfast, miss lunch. I'd have chocolate bars for dinner. I was so unhealthy. And I thought because I was working so damn hard, it didn't matter because I was successful in business and I neglected my health. But then I made a decision to change, and I needed someone's help with it. Like I hired a fitness coach, and then I got my nutrition in order. And it took more time, but I was actually more productive overall because I was healthier, so I had way more energy. And I was like, and look, I see you smoking right now. You look like an awesome guy, a kick-ass guy. But to be honest with you, man, you're better than that, and you know that. And I was like, so have you thought of quitting? And he's like, oh, actually, yeah, I've thought about going on those e-cigarettes. And I'm like, man, today, make it happen. Get on the e-cigarettes. And he's like, yeah, I will. Yeah, I will. Thanks, man. And so there's this guy that if I just went directly and said, get out of the cigarettes, he'd be like, who the fuck are you? Like, because he was a big, confident looking, he was probably 50 years old, and here's some young schmuck. But he took it on board because I did it, communicated effectively. Yeah. But you're right, if I went up and I was like, quick question. Do you mind if I give you some advice on your cigarettes?
It would never work, of course not. In conversation, though, look, I friggin' adore you. Thank you so much for the time you've given and all the bits of gold and the wisdom and the funses and all of it. Guys, check out, and I'm sure a lot of you would already be following Ryan. Check out Ryan. He's phenomenal. He's also got a podcast I think you'd love called
The Pain and Gain Podcast with Ryan Magdziarz.
That's right. So please do check him out. winninginternational.com.au or just .com for the website?
.com. The best place to find me would just be sending me an email. If you've got any questions, just send me an email, Ryan, R-Y-A-N, at winninginternational.com. You send me an email, I'll hit you back. But if you want to follow my stuff, just jump on Facebook and type in Ryan Magdziarz. My last name's hard to spell, so you have to probably pause this and write it down, but it's Magdziarz.
And we'll make sure we spell it correctly in the actual description of the podcast. So we've got you covered.
So just jump on Facebook, search me up, look at my page, and there's a bunch of content and value on there. And if you ever have any questions, just send me an email or PM the page, and I'm more than happy to help.
Lots of love. Thank you so
Gab,
much.
thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks, guys.
Been fun.
Ciao.
See ya.